Wonder how many rushable squares will we get here? Let's see.
Ooh, okay. Romina center
Okay.
square seems really, really nice here. We
Mhm.
have also Lamenter, Mateer Mother Fingers. That's a late game boss that we've been hoping for. Anything else that's like really late game? We got Euphoria, so that's not too bad as well.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it for the most part. We do have a nice little synergy here, which is Mateer Mother Fingers and also Emir Mother Fingers. So that's gonna be really, really nice for anyone that does push the finger ruins. And on
Hmm.
top of that, you have Putrescent Knight. So that kind of plays into that whole quest line because you have to go down to Cerulean Coast anyways to even do that quest. So that's going to be a lot of nice pressure that you can kind of like maybe put on the board in like the mid game with Lamenter actually in row 1 as well. So definitely a lot of southern region presence here that you could probably pull off.
Definitely. And there's not too many early rushable squares, but a couple here. We've got Cell Great Katana +0, of course, the classic rush that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of players go for. 2 Hanging Pot Bell Bearings, Drink Tolier's Concoction, and 2 Blessings of America. I think all are ones that we could see pretty early here that they might go for the rush on. Nothing that really sets up for a great line here, except for maybe column 2 if you got both the Great Katana +0 and the Hanging Pot Bell Bearings. That could put some pressure on there, force the other player to go into that Lamenter or maybe Mother of Fingers line. But yeah, it's looking like it could turn into a longer one. Oh, also Kindred cookbooks that I missed on my first glance there. That's also definitely a rushable one.
Yeah, there's the talismans and ashes of war has also been something that's been kind of like labbed by the players, making sure that those are really quick as well. I am curious to
Mhm.
see. So the Great Katana Square is really fantastic, just because it is somewhat of a game of chicken. Because you don't know if the other person's going to go for it. You technically sometimes don't want to sell it because it's such a good weapon. So you're kind of like maybe
Mhm.
holding on to it sometimes. Like, okay, well, let me use it for a little bit and just hold on to it. Maybe do some of these collection squares. And if it hasn't been sold yet, I'll maybe sell it. Or if it's like, okay, let me do some collection squares. If it is sold, cool. Now I can upgrade it, and I don't have to worry about that square, and I get a good weapon on top of that. So I do think it's very, very interesting to see like who goes for it and why they go for it. And sometimes players, neither of them actually go for it, and it's just a locked out square because both just really want to use the Great Katana. So it's very interesting to watch for sure. And we have 10 seconds here before the fog wall goes down. What would you like to see first from these players? I'm expecting Great Katana first.
I'm expecting that for sure. I think that I've been really impressed with the backhand blades, and so I think that probably a lot of players are comfortable with both the Great Katana and the backhand blades,
Mm-hmm.
maybe even 3 or 4 weapons potentially, and so I would definitely expect to see that sell from one of them. But Bushy here is rushing down to the church for the Blessing of America, it looks like, whereas Adef is heading towards those ruins. So a little bit of a split at the start here. So maybe Adef will get that Cell Katana. He is, I think, going straight for the ruins. He's not going around them. Is there anything in the ruins that he'd be grabbing? He could be a talisman, but he's not grabbing it right now. So I think he's just grabbing the grace to come back to it later.
I think he
Gonna grab
might
that.
be interested in backhand blades here as he is pulling that line straight towards it, whereas Bushy going straight for
Mm.
Blessings of America. So this is a really interesting play. Blessings of America, I don't I understand that it is rushable, but starting off with your map progression going into the church first
Hmm.
is sometimes a bit of you know, a mistaken routing, I would say, because you do want progression to Skidoo Altus as soon as possible to make sure that you have a bit more map progression compared to your opponent. Um, but it's going to be interesting to see. I guess for Bushy, this is definitely a good position to be in, though, in the sense that he can kind of wait out the Great Katana Square with this. This is something that I mentioned, right, where it's like you kind of play like a game of chicken with this Great Katana. Be like, okay, I'm going to do some other things. I'm going to collect some things. It could be, Blessings of America or Kindred Cookbooks or whatever in that regard, and see if it sells. If it doesn't sell, I'll grab it and I'll sell it. Or if it doesn't sell, I'll grab it and I'll use it. So sometimes these prep squares are definitely worth it. And I think both of them maybe are expecting the other person to kind of go for Great Katana. But Adaf here going straight towards the pillar pathway, Grace. And Bushy, I think, going the exact same way now. Going to be doing that gravestone skip and going also to the pathway.
Yeah, both of them skipping the katana. Not what I expected here. They are
Yeah.
both going here. I think this is a maybe a Talia concoction rush from both of them is what this
Mm.
might be here. I but it could also be setting up for like kindred cookbooks, trying to get into the Skidoo Altus. It could be hanging pot bell bearings. There's a lot of different things that this could be setting up for, but I imagine the talking to Talia here lets us know that this is going to be the concoction. He's probably going to head to more next, is what it looks like for Adef, while Bushy is kind of catching up on these gravestones. Ooh, falls a little on the skip, but he should be able to get it the second try.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting. That concoction is Adef's first square choice here. It is in the bottom right corner, so that being a corner square is definitely very, very nice. Just it's interesting that that is the first rushable square compared to everything else that's currently on the board. It is a quick square, so there is that for sure. Just an interesting a choice, however, because I don't think that would be a lot of players' first choice when looking at this board.
Yeah, I mean, I think it maybe it's sort of a mind game, like, oh, I think that the other player is going to go for the Cell Great Katana, so I'm going to go for this sort of secondary option here, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is
Mm-hmm.
also very rushable, does get you a lot of the map progression that you want. You're going to go to Talier anyway, like any route that you do is going to go through Talier. So that time to get to more isn't that much for an entire square if he can get this first. And Adef is looking like he gets it. If he gets this and then gets Cell Great Katana, a 2-square lead this early would be quite a large lead to have so far. Bushy, although, will probably strike back with those Blessings of America.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and on top of that, being at two corner squares, one inner corner square, one outer corner square, that's a lot of early pressure for sure to have on the board. The Blessings of America definitely would block that diagonal. Bushy, however, does fail the Tuolier skip here. Going to have to reset the Grace. This should be a concoction here really quickly from Adef in just a moment, in the next like 30 seconds here or so. And yeah, I'm really wondering what is going on in these players' heads right now of like seeing that Great Katana square is still open. Because I feel like at some point, it definitely has gotten me where I'm like, okay, that's still open. Why is that still open? Am I missing something? Because then sometimes you get worried, right? You're like, okay, wait, hold on. If that Katana square is open, there's something like way more important that I'm like not seeing, that you don't want to go for a free square like that.
Yeah.
So that's always really interesting to see like what exactly they're thinking of. There is the Tuolier concoction though for Adef. Does drink it, and as soon as he gets that loading screen, he is going to go ahead and mark that first square. Adef versus Bushy, 1-0. Nice.
Yeah, what it might be is that both of them might actually be planning to use the Great Katana, but they see so many collection things that they want to kind of go for all of those first and then come back for the Great Katana before upgrading it. So I could definitely see that potentially being a play, but I imagine that one of them seeing it still open here is just going to go for it. And it looks like Adef is. It looks like he is going for that Great Katana right now. He might choose to use it, but I imagine he's going to sell it, seeing that this square has still been open this long.
Yeah, it looks like he's going for it, but he's not grabbing the Savage Lion's Claw here, which is normally a very easy DLC Ash of War
Oh
pickup.
no, he's turning towards
Oh,
it.
okay, yeah, I guess he just remembered potentially, just saw that on the board. Gonna go for that now. That's an easy pickup here, and he should be able to then maybe go for that column 5 is really not that bad. Dancing
really
Lion,
isn't.
Ashes of War, Catacombs, Dragon Hearts. The Dragon Hearts especially is pretty easy to pick up here with that line, and kind of forcing maybe a Dancing Lion early wouldn't be a bad idea. There's the Blessings of America here from Bushy. Gonna go ahead and grab that, and then maybe going for yeah, I think you already grabbed that Magma Talisman as well. That's currently down at the house. For anyone that's wondering, we're going to open up the handy-dandy map here. There it is. Adef selling, by the way, Great Katana. There it is. 2 squares now for Adef with 2 corner squares. But here is the map. Here is the map. The map is back. And, yeah, so there's a couple of talismans that we can grab here for any of the viewers at home that don't know where there are some early talismans. We got the Blade of Mercy talisman here and the Scorched Runes that you can pick up. We also have the Ailment talisman that's at this town over here, whatever the hell that's called. Always forget. Then we got the good old Prospect Town, the Arcane talisman you can grab. That's a free one. You have the Spelldrake talisman that is right after Balls here. It's a little bit like, it's like in this corner right around here. It's like a little bit right before the bridge. You gotta do a little bit of a drop down. So those are 4 talismans already that you can go get early on if you really wanted to. Otherwise, you have that magma talisman that Bushy just picked up right there, that little house, and you have a fire drake talisman in Fort Reprimand as well. So those are the 6 really early like talisman pickups that a lot of players kind of aim for. On top of that, however, there is also the Shattered Stone Talisman, which is in Morth Ruins, which has also been somewhat of a popular pickup as well from some of those players. So those are the options that are pretty rushable as well, which is really, really nice. So yeah.
Yeah, a lot of options there, and some powerful talismans there as well to just use. Definitely, even if you get sniped on that, even if you don't quite get the square, having some powerful talismans set up is not a bad plan. Especially that Blade of Mercy. One of my personal favorites is that Blade of Mercy. I love that it was introduced in the DLC, and I would love to see the players use it a bit and go for some of those staggers, some of those riposts for a lot of extra damage.
Yeah. No, I'm lucky. I'm lucky. No, I'm happy. Sorry. There we go. I'm happy to see that the backhand blades kind of got like a bit of a reverse treatment where a lot of people in the beginning didn't really like it too much. We're like, it's not that great. Oh, it's okay, but it's not that great. And then seeing some matches where it just absolutely just dominates in boss fights, and I'm like, okay, maybe I was wrong. That's actually kind of good. I kind of like that. That's pretty strong. And it's interesting now that a lot of players even are like, hey, Dom, can you actually sell backhand blades +0 to the square list now? Because it's kind of like pretty much on par with the Great Katana at this point. And I mean, who knows? There's some square ideas that I have thought about that to maybe add to the square list here in the mid-season, but adding squares is a very big no in my mind as well, because players have been practicing with this specific square list, so changing things all of a sudden changes like the whole thing, you know. Just adding one square can change the whole like meta sometimes, you know. Especially like selling like backhand blades, because then you have to learn a whole new weapon on top of that and adjust to okay, well now if I don't get backhand blades or Great Katana, what do I do now? Like what weapon options do I have? Anvil Hammer, you know? Am I going to be using the Swift Spear? Probably not, but you know, it's there. Yeah, so it's always interesting seeing the requests that do come in though in the middle of the season of like, hey, this is kind of scary.
Yeah, now Bushy in Prospect Town, and as I believe he doesn't have a weapon yet, I'd be interested to see if he wanted to go for the Blood Fiend's arm. It has not really been a meta pick right now so far, but I mean, if you're already in Prospect Town getting the Hanging Pot Bell Bearing as well as the Kindred Cookbook, maybe an option for another strong weapon that you could get up. It is a little bit harder to get than the other weapons, because it's not just on the ground. You have to kill one of the Blood Fiends for it, and if you don't have an upgraded weapon, that is a scary prospect to do. But if he can get it, that could be a very interesting choice.
It is definitely a strong play too from Bushy here. There's Hanging Pot Bell Bearings, there's cookbooks, and there's talismans here. With that arcane talisman. So there's a lot of things here in Prospect Town that he could go for. Does miss those jumps, however, for that Hanging Pot Bell Bearing here, trying to go for that melee only Hanging Pot Bell Bearing strat. While Adef is currently, I believe in Castle Ents is going to be no, Fort Reprimand, sorry. Going to be grabbing that Fire Drake talisman that I was telling you chatters about at home, if in case you want to grab that. It is behind these cages here in that little chest.
Yeah, I think Bushy currently, I believe, has the slight lead on those DLC talismans, but Adef catching up pretty quickly here as he's now getting into that Fort of Reprimand and into Skidoo Altus, while Bushy taking this little detour over to the Prospect Town.
Looks like he might be trying to port now. Is not going to consider going for that Arcane Talisman, even though he's right next to it.
Or the Kindred Cookbook, both right here. So he is getting out of here. He wants this really quickly.
That is really interesting that he wants to really have those Hanging Pot Bell Bearings. I think I think he's looking at the whole row 5 column 2 threat and is like, okay, I have to push Hanging Pot Bell Bearings, otherwise I've got those 2 lines kind of starting to worry me here. And honestly, that's a fair call. I think that's a fair approach of being like, again, remember like what I mentioned with like 1 square and people are already getting a little too cautious? You got 1 square on each line. He's like, I don't like what I'm seeing here. That column 2, row 5 synergy with the Hanging Pot Bell Bearings. I don't like that. Let me get rid of that real quick. So I think focusing on that definitely makes a lot of sense.
Adef now, it looks like with the third DLC Talisman, so with just one more, he's gonna have this square that it looked like Bushy had the lead on with the better map presence here, but if Adef gets it, this is maybe I'd say a slight lead for Adef in this early game. Bushy having that lead, but going so hard into this hanging pot bell bearings, I think maybe sort of throwing it away a little bit, making it a little bit harder for him to get quite as set up as Adef is. Adef does have the backhand blades already has a weapon set up, already into Skidoo Altus, into the Morth Ruins, and maybe even with a one square lead if he can get one more Talisman here real quick.
Yeah, so Bushy here grabbing, however, that block with the hang pot bell bearings does help him a lot here, trying to relieve some of that pressure that's been building up. There is the Talismans, though, now from Adef. Going to be grabbing that. And Bushy here kind of stuck in invasion mode. Can't really port or anything. Can't be on horseback. And it's just trying to drop the Ancient Dragon Man aggro. There it is. Goes to his world now. So that way he can actually quit out and port to somewhere new. Because he doesn't have a weapon. He kind of like screwed himself over there a little bit by not having a weapon being able to deal with the invasion. Even though there is 3 unique NPC invaders. But that Hanging Pot Bell Bearing Square was such a pressure point that he was like, I'm going to just deal with the time loss of getting the square, just because I really do not want that to be in my face right now.
Yeah, and he is heading back even here now to the Cliff Road terminus to Prospect Town, where it looks like now he's going to go for the Kindred cookbooks, which I think is a good play, but, I would have liked to see him do it all at once with the Hanging Pot Bell Bearing, not do all these warps, but he really wanted that pressure off, so if he thinks he can play better in the late game and turn this slight square disadvantage into his advantage in the late game, not a bad play to play a little bit defensively if you need to at the start.
Yeah. And it's really, really hard, to figure out, like, okay, am I supposed to play offensively right now? Do I have time advantage? Am I supposed to play defensively? Sometimes making that right call, and including, making 50-50 calls on squares is really difficult, and being like, okay, am I actually currently in the winning position, or am I actually behind without really realizing it? There's sometimes when we have like boards where it's like, oh, this one person's been dominating, that's crazy. And it's like, no, I don't think you, like, if you actually like read the board or read the player progression or know how far they've gotten on the map, actually the person that has the lesser square sometimes actually is in the lead, is actually in a winning position because they have more progress or something. So yeah, it's very, very interesting to see for sure the mentality shift throughout the match for the players.
Ooh, I thought they were both going for the Kindred cookbooks, but actually Adef is heading here for, I believe it's the Ash of War from this Scarab.
Yeah.
And so if he can get that, he's doing good. Bushy did get the 2 Kindred cookbooks, so making good use of what he's got so far. And Adef, I think, just needs one more Ash of War. I'm not sure where he might go for. He might go for maybe Rolling Sparks is a potential one that gets you towards the front of the castle. No Hippo Square here that I can see, but that is a potential one that he might go for. Or, several other options here in the early game.
There is the... yeah, that's a good point. There's also, Wall of Sparks. If you want to go past Hippo, there is Wall of Sparks as well if you really want to go for that. But I do believe the more common one that's going to be picked up here after Savage Lion's Claw and the Piercing Throw is most likely the Black Knight at Fort Reprimand drops that Crucible Wings Ash of War. So normally when Black Knight's on there, that's definitely something that's rushed early on here. But otherwise, if you don't have that option, I do wonder what he's going for. I think he might be going for those Rolling Sparks. I think he brought the Bone Darts here.
Yeah, he bought the daggers so he could bring it down. I think that's a very smart play. I think it continues to get you map progression at the same time as finishing off this square. So I really like this, even though, well, is there any reason to go around the backside of... I guess you will need to go around the backside eventually for something like Metter, those Metter squares, but I think in this early game, going the front side and having earlier access to something like Romina is not a bad play. Also, this direction is the Red Bear, although not really a grace that you can get along the way for that necessarily. You'll kind of just have to come back to Morth Ruins. But the front here does have some potential synergy or things that you might want, so Rolling Sparks, I think, is a good play here.
Yeah, I think it's worth the time sink for sure, just to get that off of the board, kind of pushing maybe that column 5 that we mentioned. That's kind of a powerful column 5.
Yes.
And now with Adef kind of like a little bit ahead currently when it comes to building his character, I think this is going to be even more interesting. Okay, it's a little too close to the Scarab. There it is now.
Yes.
It does drop down. Yeah, this
Should
could be
have it here in just a second.
very, very interesting to see what this decision is after this. There it is. Ashes of War now for Adef. Grabbing that Rolling Sparks. Going to be activating that column 5 now. And we had Bushy grab those Kindred Cookbooks, and now is also upgrading the Great Katana. Because now, obviously, Adef sold it. So he's like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to use it then. Why not?
Yeah.
The question now is, though, what is Bushy thinking? With column 5 being a threat, is he thinking Dragon Hearts? Dancing Lion right away? Currently at Graveside Plains. Looks like he's thinking Dragon Hearts. Going towards that Ancient Dragon Man.
Yeah. At least unlocking that Ancient Dragon Man and having a chance for there. Because as we mentioned, there's a lot of things that are in that area. You know, Putrescent Knight, fastest way to get there is through that Ancient Dragon Man route. 3 unique NPC invaders. You want, you know, Dragon Man is a great one to do for that. Which it looks like he might even start with. It looks like he's going into where the Ancient Dragon Man will invade.
And it's actually not a bad
invaded.
call either, because the NPC invaders is on the same line as Dragonheart, so he could kind of activate that row 3 for himself after going for invaders.
And he already has the Kindred Cookbooks. Yeah, that's
right.
That could be a lot of pressure. It looks like Adef might be also going for the NPC invaders with Queeline here, so we might get ourselves a race for this square if they are both going to continue on it.
Yeah, surprisingly, 18 minutes in, we've had so many squares and not a single race, which is kind of insane, to be honest. We already have 7 squares marked, not a single one was a snipe. And I think that's just like really interesting to see like the choices that players make and what they feel comfortable with.
Yeah, that great katana with the Lion's Claw absolutely shredded the Ancient Dragon Man. That was not fair. Adef having a little struggle here. Oh, a big struggle with Queeline. I should not have said anything. Having to probably go back and do that, or maybe he wants to pivot off to something else if he now thinks, okay, maybe I'm behind in that square, maybe I should give it up and go for something else instead. We'll see what he does.
I'm surprised to see here, by the way, from Adef, he doesn't even have affinity on his backhand blades. It's not cold damage, it's just a normal backhand blade setup. And I wonder if it's just because he doesn't have any money, but he could go to Fort Reprimand and get that money real quick if you really, really needed it. Because I don't think he's gotten those 80,000
I really would
yet.
like to see him get it to that bleed affinity, because I think without it, I'm not a big fan of the backhand blades without it, but with it, it was absolutely chunking, as we've seen in some previous matches. So if he can get it fully set up with that bleed, maybe with some talismans that synergize with the bleed, you know, he could be a lot stronger than he is right now, and I think that would play better for him than trying to kind of get by with just an okay weapon setup.
Yeah, here we have a Bushy going for that Magma Worm in Ancient Dragon Man cave. I think at this point, yeah, with Bushy having a Great Katana with Cold Infusion on it, his character currently is stronger than Adef's, with Adef not having that bleed on his backhand blades. I'm not sure if he knows. I'm assuming he does, and he just doesn't have the money for the Wet Blade right now, with it being 35,000. Bushy, however, being bullied here by this Magma Worm.
Yeah, that running attack will just catch you over and over again. I swear they designed this cave so that Magma Worm will just always catch you with that running attack at the start.
Yeah, it's very, very hard to kind of deal with in this specific setting for sure. Bushy here going to be doing some decent damage. Should be getting a Frost proc here soon. There it is, a nice stagger. And Frost right now.
Take the riposte.
It's so weird seeing the Frost, because like the whole color of the monster is always like change, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you just like sap them out of all of their like saturation.
Yeah, and I've had some weird visual bugs with it as well, where it's looked like they're frosted when they haven't been. And it has been, sometimes it looks very silly, but here the Frost doing big damage. Adef, was that an on-purpose death?
Yeah.
I assume so after he got the rune. Yep.
I think so. I think he's going for the affinity pickup here now, which I think is a good call. Should have done that technically before the whole invasions thing, but he'll easily you know, make up for it by getting.
Yeah,
it
I think
now.
it's just because he was in the area, because he had just done the rolling sparks, that he wanted to kind of do it all in one without warping. But yeah, I think the smarter play here. Let's just get fully set up. Let's just get everything working as it should, and then if I come back, I can hopefully take it out more easily.
Right. Yeah, 100% agree. And there it is, one Dragonheart here from Bushy now. Going to be going probably towards Ancient Dragon Man, and going to be working towards possibly his second Dragonheart.
Yeah, and if he gets that, that'll be a very quick Dragonheart, blocking that line, and again, setting up for his own line. So Bushy really doing a great job of taking what looked like a lot of early pressure from Adef, and if he gets these Dragonhearts quickly, he could kind of swing it around and say, here's some pressure of my own. Now I'm going to be in the driver's seat, and you're going to have to react to me.
Yeah, this is interesting. Adef here now also at the Hippo. I think just looking at the Shadowkeep access here, I don't know if Hippo is the right call, with Hippo not even being on the board over Churchwater District, and just having that access, you know, for Gaius, but also having it for Mother of Fingers and base game DLC boss and Emir. I don't know how I feel about this call, to be honest. I think that maybe just like to create earlier access for now, and then we'll still have to go all the way around. But I feel like a Red Bear here or Unique Invaders would be technically a better call from Adef, just to make sure that row 3 doesn't become too much of a problem.
Ooh, and gets taken out by the Hippo there. Not what you love to see here. Oh, Bushy always also getting a little low on that Ancient Dragon Man, but just another hit or two should do it. Okay, he's got him.
Very nice. Yeah, that Savage Lands Cloud putting in a lot of work on that Ancient Dragon Man. It's still really good. Still surprisingly that Bushy is the only one that actually uses it. I know Overhead Stance is also like pretty good for these types of situations, but the pancaking of the Savage Lands Claw on that second casting versus NPCs is just way too good. I feel like that a lot of players should still consider, possibly using that if they do pick it up.
Yeah, especially with NPC invaders on the board, as well as Ancient Dragon Man being something that you need to get through. I think picking it up is an excellent idea. You could even swap back to Overhead Stance later if you wanted, once you're done with the NPC invaders. But for those specifically, I think it is so powerful. Very worth it.
No, I definitely agree. A nice stagger here, though, from Adef on the Hippo fight. Let's go ahead and bring him on the big screen here real quick as we go ahead and check out his fight. Going into phase 2 here on the Hippo. He's got to be a little careful here. Does get impaled once in the head. Does get a nice bleed proc, though. Has to be a little careful because of this attack.
Very scary.
Wow, does get double ticked, but does not die. That's where that armor set really comes in. That armor set is really useful.
Yeah, he also bought some defensive talismans. I believe he got the Dragon Crest Great Shield, as well as, I think it was the one that makes your flasks heal for more.
Ah, yes, the Crimson Seed. Yeah, that one's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that Chris mentioned, because that's one he was buying last week as well. Once we asked him, like, hey, why would you buy the Crimson Seed? And he's like, well, sometimes when you get hit in the DLC, since I'm using Ritual Sword and Ritual Shield Talisman, I would have to heal twice instead of just once. And with Crimson Seed Talisman, I only have to heal once, and I can go back into the fight rather than wasting my time and risking going for a second flask heal. And I think that's becoming more and more of a common strat for players to make sure that they can really maximize the DPS and make sure they're not wasting time playing defensively in these monster fights, but playing more offensively.
Yeah, Bushy going for the Jagged Peak Drake. What do you think about that as opposed to something like the Ghost Flame Dragon? It's, perhaps a little more along the way, especially if afterwards he's going to go get the Grand Altar of Dragon Communion. But maybe a little bit longer of a fight. I think that Ghost Flame Dragon generally goes down a little quicker.
I mean, the Ghost Flame Dragon does go down quicker if you have the Sanctified Wet Blade. With Bushy not having the money to buy that Wet Blade, I mean, he could have done that actually after Ancient Dragon Man. This fight, however, does go pretty quickly with the Great Katana, to be honest, especially with Overhead Stance.
Yeah.
If you're able to get the Overhead Stance off twice on the head for those status procs, and then go for that nice riposte. This fight does go very quickly, and the progression here for Egon's Furled Finger, if anything, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, he could have actually done the other Jagged Peak Drake for Egon's Furled Finger on top of Dragonhearts.
Oh, I would have actually, I think that would have been a really smart play. But he is gonna get the second one here, get the Dragonhearts. Just make sure to block off that line of Adefs and start his own line here. Is a very strong square to get. Doesn't quite set up for the Egon's Furled Finger, but yeah, getting that square is great, and having access to Egon's Furled Finger later if that becomes a relevant square.
All right, he did mark it early, but luckily Adolf was not on that square. Him unmarking it and remarking it because he had to actually acquire the dragon heart, not kill a dragon. So
Yes.
he is good to go. He is fine on that, which is that's nice to see. But Adolf, you're also clearing that hippo, going towards that first grace now in Shadowkeep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so with this, I wonder if he's going to maybe rush Romina. It would certainly be a way to block Bushy's line that he's been setting up in the middle here. And honestly, I don't know that I would hate it. You could then also have a Remembrance boss that you could then dupe. You could get closer to eventual Euphoria, but it's a very large time commitment to do so early in order to get some of those. So in the meantime, Bushy maybe could get some of these earlier squares if that is what Adef's thinking, or Adef might just be setting up and pivoting and, kind of saying, well, I've got priority on it, so I can get it later if I need.
Yeah, no, 100%. It looks like that Adef right now is possibly leaning into going for Elac River here. Because, why else would he go down here at this point? There is no Chief Blood Fiend on the board. There is no perfume bottles. So what exactly is he thinking about going for here? I guess just having access to the Putrescent and the Velvet Sword as quickly as possible might be what he's looking at. But I feel like the access actually here for Ancient Dragon Man is better because then you can also go for Egon's Furled Finger, Lamenter Boss.
Yep.
I think those are two really big things to consider here when going this way instead of going through Ancient Dragon Man. I guess he's thinking, however, like, hey, Bushy already marked Dragon Hearts. He probably already has priority on Lamenter and Egon. Let me get priority on Cerulean Coast, I guess, by not doing that fight and just going through the Elac River instead.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know that I love this play from Adef, but we'll see how it works out. I would love to see one of them go for the synergy of Dancing Lion as well as Scorpion Stew. I think that could be a nice quick 1-2 that could sort of catch the opponent off guard. But yeah, currently Bushy going for that NPC invaders, and we're again seeing the Lion's Claw. It's great. It is just putting in work on Queeline, and there it is.
One thing I'm shocked by is that Adef did not try to retry that unique 3 invaders at all. And just kind of left that open. And now this row 3 is going to be looking really, really dangerous. He does already have Hippo dead, so getting to Romina is not a big deal. But he should be looking at getting Red Bear here. Trying to get rid of that row 3.
Yeah, I think he will hopefully pivot directly to that as soon as he sees the 3 unique NPC invaders marked. We might see a race there. I would love to see it because, yeah, if Adef just gives that up, that's going to be a big lead for Bushy. That's going to be 2 squares with Adef not having too much in compensation for it.
Yeah, and as Bushy here is going to be taking out more when it comes to the NPC invasions. Let's go ahead and go back to the map screen here real quick. I'm going to explain kind of like what we're talking about when it comes to the board and why Adef going through the Elac River is not necessarily a good idea is because if you go through Elac River, which Adef you see right here is going through right now, there is the perfume bottles right here with that giant lightning ram that rolls around. But this access here only gets you into the Cerulean Coast. You cannot get to the Crimson Coast from the Cerulean Coast. You're completely locked out from this upper area. You have to go all the way around through Ancient Dragon Man to even get here. And there we have it, by the way, 3 unique NPC invaders marked here by Bushy. But you do have to go all the way around to get access to the Crimson Coast. This is the only way you can access this area. So kind of Adef locking himself out of Lamenter Boss. Not locking himself out of it, but more or less like not giving himself priority on it, and also not getting access to that Egon's Furled Finger fight is kind of a risky play, I would say, for sure, in the long term. Well, hopefully, he does get that access later on. But now both players currently in Skidoo Altus, as I think Bushy's going to be going for Red Bear here.
I think they both are.
Yeah,
I think like a race.
They're both kind of like booking towards it right now. Red Bear being at this lake here. Let's see who gets it first. Ice Cold Great Katana or the Bleeding Backhand Blades. Let's see which one actually works quicker. And my money, honestly, going to be Great Katana for that poise damage.
Yeah, I think it definitely could be. I think that if they both get great opportunities for hits, I'd put my money on the backhand blades, but you get more opportunities with the Great Katana with its range, and you only have to get like 1 or 2 big hits in to get the stagger. Ooh, Bushy dying
Oh!
though.
Okay, there's a stake of America here, though.
Yeah, but that is going to be an advantage for Adef as long as he can avoid death himself.
Yep.
Doing some good damage there, but you know, not incredible damage just yet. Once we start to get those bleed procs to come in, it should be a little more. Getting some good attacks. I really like to see that one where he makes the ground explode, because with a jump, you can get a nice jump attack punish on it. But I do not love to see some of these other attacks.
That
AF
charge attack is
is
devastating. It is so
yeah.
fast. Oh, and Bushy, it looks like he's
Bushy
pivoting.
pivoting. Okay, he says, I think this was a race, and I think, you know, I trust Adef is going to get it here. So it might be the right play, but, you know, he's not taking that risk for the potential very strong line here. So if Adef can get it, it takes the pressure off a lot here, and we're pretty much back to even.
I think he might be looking at, you know, maybe Red Bear currently isn't the right call, but also, hey, let me go ahead and prep some other things instead and see what he blocks, and then I'll go from there. However, I do think that Bushy not going for Shadow Keep access here 33 minutes into the match is kind of insane. Because there is a lot of Shadow Keep that you would need, you know, Mother of Fingers, Emir, Romina. You need also for base game boss with base DLC if you don't go for the Deathrite Bird, which he currently is near. You know, and yeah, I don't know. I feel like Churchwater would be the better call here.
Yeah, I definitely, that's probably the play I would have made, would have been to go to the Churchwater, but there isn't an overwhelming synergy with that Churchwater. So if he can get, you know, Lamenter here, if he can use this access to get to Putrescent Knight, maybe, I don't know, Velvet St. Trina sword along the way. Maybe because he kills something big, he gets a Remembrance and Memory of Grace with 300,000 runes. Those are a lot of squares that don't necessarily require that access to Shadow Keep. So it could work out very well for him if he can rush a lot of these squares. Oh, even base game boss in the DLC. Looks like that might be where he's heading to first, is Mariga, is the demi-human queen, so that he can get that. It is a pretty quick kill that you can get. A lot of running to get there, but once you get there, it is a quick kill that he can get.
Adef here, kind of long on this fight. I don't know if it's his levels. I don't think it's the weapon necessarily. It might just be his build setup. I'm not too sure. But the damage not being as effective as I expected, if I'm being honest. I think part of it is definitely got to be the fact that he just doesn't have a lot of Skidoo levels and probably just normal levels in general, because there's been a lot of collecting on this board than killing.
Yeah, and Red Bear, a surprisingly tough boss to take down. Big stagger, though, here. I don't know if he wanted that riposte right away, but he takes it, gets a few more hits in here. He's almost there, as long as we do not commentator curse him. Oh, big bleed proc.
Huge bleed
should
proc
have
for
it.
sure. Oh, I don't think he's got the Rotten Sword insignia. That would really, really help here.
I don't think he has it, yeah.
There it is, though. GG's to Ada if you're grabbing that Red Bear, blocking that row 3. This is kind of like confirming.
Ooh, and Memory of Grace with 300,000 runes. The 1-2, that's huge, actually.
That kind of hurt my heart a little bit because it was 426,000. He could have spent some of that money. But I understand trying to get rid of that like ASAP, just to make sure that you don't lose out on that. That is a nice 6-5 lead now here from Adef. Going to be activating that row 4, kind of. You could definitely go for that Dancing Land Scorpion Stew if you really wanted to at this point. Nice repose
if he does
here from
that
Bushy.
into Catacombs, he does have the priority on Euphoria. So it could be a sneaky line there if he goes for the Dancing Lion play. But no, he's trying to contest. He'll see that it just got taken and hopefully pivot off somewhere else.
There it is. Yeah, base game boss and the base game DLC. I think that's a really good thing here then for Adef seeing that, to be honest. But now the read is going to be, okay, what was that, though? Was that Demi-Human? Was that Tree Sentinel? Was that, you know, the base game boss, you don't really know exactly what was killed, and so it's hard to kind of tell what the progression was here. Like, does he really have Churchwater access now? Does Bushy have Churchwater access? And I think that's the fun part about that specific square, is that the information is not really very giving in this case. So now looks like Adolf is going for that Dancing Lion Scorpion Stew play, and I think that's a good idea.
I love that. I think this is not too long. You know, Ballarat, not the quickest place to get to, but for my money, I think it's probably faster than getting to Putrescent Knight. Both of them are basically going to get 2 uncontested squares here, where Bushy's going to get Putrescent Knight and Velvet St. Trina's Sword, and then Adef is going to get Dancing Lion and Scorpion Stew, and they both will have access to dupe a Remembrance. Whoever can get through to their Remembrance boss first can get that dupe as well, and that's going to be what provides maybe this swing here. They're both perfectly tied right now, and I'd say whoever gets that dupe or Remembrance is going to be the one in the lead. Oh, although Bushy pivoting?
Going to Highland Cross.
Here?
Here's the interesting thing, though, is that both of them don't really have any access to duping right now, like off the rip. We can go back to the map screen here real quick. Do a lot of map today, a lot of mapping, but you know there's 3 duping stations in the DLC. So there are going to be coffins that you can find that are out in the world. 2 of them at Finger Ruins. One of them is going to be in this little pocket. So when you come up here, it's going to be in this little pocket right over here. In this little corner is going to be a coffin that you can talk to dupe a Remembrance. There's one at the good old church, Manus Matir. It's going to be back here on the. If you're running up towards the Matir, it's going to be on the back right side in the lake water area. And then you have one more at Finger Ruins Dio, which is going to be, I believe, right here after the Falling Star Beast, next to this finger here. I believe it's right here, or it's right here. I don't know. The Dio region is a little confusing. There's too many fingers everywhere. It's a little hard to really pinpoint exactly where it is. It's one of these 2 spots, though. But yeah, so those are the only 3 areas, and neither of them have gone into the Churchwater District a roundabout area at all. So the only place that both of them have access to really is the first Finger Ruins, the Rio one, that's on the southern region. So I don't know. This is kind of interesting for the duping. It's not really much a priority for either player here.
Yeah, I would imagine you go to Ymir, maybe, if you're Adef. If you were Bushy, since you've gone through Ancient Dragon Man, you could maybe do that more southern dupe a Remembrance spot. But yeah, both of them not great access to it, but Bushy, it looks like, is collecting those Skidoo fragments and maybe going to Ymir right now so that he's set up for dupe a Remembrance later as well. So that could be a smart play. Start with getting the Skidoo before you go to the boss fight so that the boss fight will be a lot quicker and a lot easier.
I think also grabbing Old Mother here just to get that slight priority for Matir, Mother Fingers, and Ymir, I think is going to help out a lot as well. And pretty much Bushy not really knowing, but having priority also on Egon's Furled Finger and Lamenter right now. That's 4 squares that where Bushy has just insane map progression over Adolf.
Yes, definitely. So if it comes down to a race for some of those, Bushy might be in the lead here. But Adef getting to the Dancing Lion well before Bushy has access to get to Putrescent Knight or whatever he's going for next. So if Adef can get these 2 squares, that's going to put the pressure onto Bushy. Especially if Adef then goes for Catacombs, then Adef doesn't necessarily need this Ymir and all of that. He could just go for Scorpion Stew, Catacombs, and then he's got a big advantage there on Euphoria. He might be able to just rush out this line if he goes for it. Very risky, might not be a play that he's comfortable doing, but it could work out for him.
And yeah, here we have Dancing Lion here now from Adef. I think he is a bit more upgraded. There is way better damage now. I know it is Dancing Lion, so it's an early on boss, but Backhand Blades here really showing its true colors, getting some of that nice bleed procking off. I'm going to get some nice R1s in as well. I do hope at some point that Adef does get that Rod Sword Insignia, though, because it does help out with damage so much. The on-hit damage that you get from that is fantastic. And you can get the Thorny Crack tier on top of that to buff the on-hit attacks even more. Or the multi-hits, I should say. It just really, really helps out. Yeah. Speaking
Lightning
of, by
Phase
the
giving
way,
him a little trouble here, because these These random lightnings, they always catch you, but he's getting some pressure on. I think he lost his posture damage a little bit too long that he wasn't able to get a hit, but oh, never mind. I am
Wow.
just completely wrong. There is the stagger. Let's go.
Very, very nice. Also, a little heads up here. Oh, never mind. We're at a 5-minute delay. Saying that there's ads coming in 2 minutes doesn't even matter.
well, they've already happened a few minutes ago.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I completely forgot about that. The mods will let them know. Nice fight here, though, from Adef. Does take a couple of hits, but is past the lightning phase, which I feel like is worse than any other phase. Does get that Dancing Lion. GG's to Adef here. Going to be grabbing that Dancing Lion square into possible Scorpion Stew now.
I have to imagine you go for the Scorpion Stew. It's right there. Although you could hold it for later, knowing that you've got the priority on it, that Bushy would have a really hard time taking that from you. But I like just claiming the square because it just doesn't take very long. So you might as well get it while you're here.
No, Adef doesn't really know how to get to the old lady. Just ported there and ported away because he couldn't find the door. It's right around the corner. He does go back. Okay, here we go. I think he just is maybe a little stressed. You know, I've definitely had that feeling of like I got to know where this is right now. I got to move. And then it's like it's not exactly where I thought it was. I'm just gonna leave. But does find it here. It does get to the door. Just has to put on the helmet, and then he's good to go, getting that Scorpion Stew, which is gonna be huge. The thing here from Bushy now, seeing that Dancing Lion
He
is
forgot
marked.
to pick up the helm from the lion. A classic mistake. I have done that more times than I can count on so many different speedruns and various things. So, yep.
That is unfortunate, but he does get it here. Now he's going to go back again. Bushy here going through Water District, seeing that Dancing Lion got marked, however, and is maybe thinking like he has to go for Mesmer and Romina now because of that row 4. I don't know if he sees that row 4 pressure kind of building, but he's not going to Catacombs. He's not pivoting to Catacombs, so he's going to be, I guess, contesting Euphoria in this regard.
Oh, interesting. That Romina into Euphoria is 2 squares, but it's a very, very long 2 squares. He probably thinks he's also going to lose Dupa Remembrance, I have to imagine. So he's got to find a way to make up what's going to be a 2 to 3 square lead here. So Adef pulling away a little bit, but definitely not over yet. Bushy having more overall map progress towards Putrescent Knight, getting kind of the same progress towards Romina that Adef has. So we'll see how this works out for him.
Okay.
Oh, he might be pivoting now to Catacombs.
He's at Cerulean Coast here. I don't know. There really isn't a catacomb nearby. What exactly is he thinking? Is he thinking that row 4 is a bluff?
PK.
Yeah, I think he's calling the Euphoria bluff potentially here. And being like, there's no way he's gonna push Euphoria. I'm gonna go and do Putrescent Knight now. And that doesn't really progress anything though. The Velvet Sword doesn't do anything either here necessarily in this case. Yeah, this is a weird play from Bushy, I want to say. Not too sure what he's thinking.
Adef doing the little skip here into Bonnie. Beautifully done. I love that there's like 5 different ways to skip into Bonnie. Like you can go on a tree, you can go on a rock, you can go on a different rock.
Yeah.
And just however you want to get down, just find some place to land.
I'm kind of really intrigued by this play. Like, why is he thinking Putrescent Knight out of all things is something to like really lean into right now, especially with that row 4. That's a I don't know. That's a very risky, just like play in general. It's gotta be really careful here. I've died so many times going down this stupid hole. You gotta be really careful with some of the elevations. Some of the elevation is very deceiving. You're like, oh, that's fine. It's not that high. And all of a sudden, you fall a bit longer. Like, oh, I think I'm dead.
Yep. And I've done that where you don't grab a single grace along the way because you're like, oh, this is easy. It's just a little bit of parkour. And suddenly you're back, 5 minutes of time because you didn't grab anything since Ancient Dragon, man.
Yeah, I literally lost a match that way where I was like, hey, I'm fine. It's just parkour down a hole. I'll grab the grace that's inside. And then I died to the fall damage. I'm all the way back to Dragon Communion Altar next to Florisax. And I'm like, okay, well, there goes that square. Like, there's no way I'm making that back up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely devastating. But it looks like he's really leaning into at least getting the St. Trina sword here, potentially. But I'm really
he's very close to
why.
it. It didn't take that long. You know, I'm kind of liking this play. I think if he pivots off of this, showing that he has the priority on Putrescent Knight and then kind of leaving it, I think this could be a smart play. But he's gonna need to get on those catacombs, I think, if he wants to block this line from Adef. Adef is going for duper Remembrance. I'm almost positive here as he's heading towards Ymir.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, don't skip that Grace, Adef. Come on.
Oh,
Grab
he
that.
does skip the Grace.
He's going for no back access to Shadow Keep at all, which I don't know that I can agree with that. That seems rough. You if you want to get meta later, it's gonna take so much longer having skipped that Grace. I'm really not a fan of this.
Oh, he's going for the dupe here. Okay, he's rushing duping.
Yeah.
There's Velvet Sword, though, from Bushy now.
He sees Velvet Sword. He's got to know he's fine on the dupe now. And maybe now he's going to sort of be regretting that choice to skip the Grace. But, you know, the rush is at least going to pay off with that he is definitely going to get this square.
Here's the thing that I'm thinking of from Bushy is there. If you look at all of Adef's squares, nothing really showcases necessarily that he ever went to Shadowkeep and that he does have Shadowkeep access. So I think that's why Bushy is like, okay, you know, he marked Dancing Lion and stuff, but everything else doesn't tell me that he's got Shadowkeep. So I'm going to go for St. Trina's sword right now. And I kind of get that, but also thinking that Shadowkeep access is not available 48 minutes into the match is a little insane as well.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure what both players are thinking, but now for Adef, yeah, he has to run all the way back, and this door is closed. I don't think you can open up in the inside. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Door does not open from that side.
It's a one-way door.
How is Ymir supposed to get out of his own house? This is poor architecture here.
I don't think he wants to, right? He just wants that graveyard with his weird hand son, and that's pretty much it. He doesn't, he's not going to go anywhere else. He's locked himself in intentionally.
Adef with the little smirk there. He knows. Okay, that was a little silly, but
yeah, that's very, very odd, but it works out, I guess, in the end here. Oh, by the way, for all of the viewers, I did just mention the 5-minute delay here. The reason for the 5-minute delay, and this was something that was talked about with the players, is that when it comes to like some of these matches, and especially coming into like the late game where there's like Consort Radahn and maybe Bale left, or there's like Midra and Ymir, those squares take so long to where that the 2-minute delay does not have the effect that we were looking for when it comes to like making sure that everyone has the buffer that they need to obviously just making sure that the competition is as professional as possible and make sure there isn't any like sniping in any way. So the 5 minutes just really covers that ground of late game and making sure that everything is as legit as possible. And the players agree that 5 minutes is a good call here. So we did extend that to 5 minutes for anyone wondering.
Yeah, but now I have to wait 5 minutes anytime that I want to see Dies of Cringe whenever we say Leda instead of later. And that's, that's a big downside. So.
I feel like, if anything, that might be a bit of an upside because we're going to be in the middle of commentary once we're done with that joke, and they're just going to get this huge wave of dopamine as the comments start flooding in 5 minutes later. Like, oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
There is the
Forgot
response.
I even said that 5 minutes ago.
That feels good. But yeah, both now working towards Romina. This could be, this is really, really interesting now because Bushy is already ahead on Romina. Going to be going possibly for this tree skip here, and Adef a bit behind about by 40 seconds, and I don't know if, okay, so grabbing Romina here is going to be great for Bushy because he's going to be blocking that diagonal. However, he is going to be missing out on the information if Adef ever goes for Romina. So he never knows if he actually is going to make Euphoria a priority or not. Because Adef right now only needs 4 squares. He could go ahead and do anything else other than Euphoria and still win.
Yeah, but Adef doesn't know that. So Adef is basically wasting his time right here because Bushy is going to get Romina and is going to get that better access to Euphoria because of it. So Adef not knowing that could definitely bite him here. That he's going for the same thing and he's gonna get sniped, and you know, Bushy could come back in this because of that.
Yeah, this is gonna be an interesting call from both players, and I wonder. You still have to do Romina regardless, anyways. I guess if you want that in-ear limb access, but also it plays into level 85, which is row 1, column 3. You know, so that level 85 does play into that. So I think going for Romina regardless. I don't know who currently has a level advantage. I want to say Bushy just because of the 300k memory of Grace from Adef here.
Yeah, but Adef also got a Remembrance and duped it. So those, you know, could bring some of it back. I would still probably give the advantage to Bushy, but I don't think it is a large advantage if so. Adef not going for the skip here, just taking it a little bit safer down the Spirit Spring. So, yeah, gonna put him even a little bit further behind. Bushy with a large lead here, getting into Romina.
I'm surprised that of all the practice, Adef's still not comfortable with the tree skip here. Might be something that might bite him in the butt at this point in time, because that is definitely like an easy 10 to 15 second time, maybe even more, because you have to go all the way around. So that tree skip does really save you a lot of time. Yeah, I want to say 20 seconds easily.
It feels like at least 20 seconds, but you know, I haven't timed it.
Yeah, I have no idea either. It does. It's a good chunk though. At the very least, he would be very much closer to Romina with Bushy now than he is in this current position. And now, yeah, Bushy going to be entering that Romina fight in just a moment here. Very, very tough.
And yeah, if that is enough to get him to level 85 as well, that puts them tied again. That puts them 9-9. If it happens that the Romina kill, that he gets it first and he gets to level 85, this is anyone's game, and Bushy maybe with better map access towards some of those progress. He's got the backside of Shadow Keep for Metter. He's closer on Putrescent Knight, and he'd have the earlier access to Euphoria, having gotten through Romina already. So if Bushy gets this and gets those 2 squares, Bushy's in a pretty commanding spot, I think, from what looked like, you know, 2 squares behind. But as you said, sometimes the person behind just has better map access and might end up really ahead very soon.
Yeah. Yeah, this is just really, really, really interesting. And I'm wondering what they're thinking is the next thing after this play. Like, does Bushy just lean into his potential priority with Putrescent Knight and, you know, Mother of Fingers? Or does he just go for the Egon's Furled Finger? Or is Catacombs a play at some point? Because that's something that's still kind of, like, wide open. Catacombs does take a hot minute, though. It's not a very fast square. You know, Season 1, Season 2, Catacombs, oh, that was gone in minutes. Oh, yeah. In this case, it's like, okay, it's going to be easily, you know, probably 10 minutes to clear both. Nice fight here, though, from Bushy. Getting those staggers in, gets that riposte. Very, very nice here.
Probably 1 or 2 more staggers, and he's got this. This is a very, very quick fight. I'm also interested that Lamenter boss is still on the board, and but Adef doesn't have access to that Charo's Hidden Grave area, but Bushy does. So Adef honestly could really struggle to get almost any squares before Bushy on this board. I think Bushy has access to almost all of them over Adef.
Oh, nice frost proc here from Bushy now. Gonna go ahead and mark that Romina square. Is this enough for him to level? And yeah, there's the Adef going, wow, I did not expect that. Gonna go still into the Romina fight, as it is gonna be good to reach that level 85. 663,000 runes here from Bushy. Does that push him into level 85 territory? It hits level 80.
It's level 80.
Wow.
Still not there.
Okay, so
he needs
5
so
more
many.
levels.
But if he goes Putrescent Knight, that gets him obviously the Putrescent Knight square, and probably enough for level 85. Oh, it looks like he might be going for Mesmer, which is a great way to get a bunch of those runes quickly for level 85 and get some access to Euphoria. So I don't hate it, although I might have preferred to see him go somewhere slightly different. Or he could even just be setting up for Metter. He could just be going the backside way just so that he has access to Metter. That would be, again, a 2 square really quickly there that he could get. And yeah, it is so close here. Hard to say who is going to win this game.
Yeah, here's the fight, by the way, from Adif on the Romina here. Backhand blades in this specific situation not doing as well as the Great Katana. I do think that he should be getting the Rotten Sword Insignia, though. That would really help out a lot with this. But that poise damage from the Great Katana does help out a crap ton in this specific situation, because Romina having, only 80 poise, you can go into stagger, into stagger, into stagger versus her. Whereas with backhand blades, it does take a good chunk more time and hits to be able to get that stagger necessary to get some free damage off.
Romina definitely one that, if you've got a large weapon, you can stagger her a lot. If you've got small weapons, you can still get good damage in, but you are just not going to be getting those staggers very often. She likes to stall. She likes to run around a lot, so hard to keep that stagger up.
Yeah. And especially, I would say, like, in the DLC, this is kind of interesting, actually. In the DLC, I would say that status is king. But in the base game, I would say that staggers are king over status.
Yes.
The staggers in base game were so powerful where you could just absolutely script fights and dominate those fights. And
This might be
in
the wrong
the DLC,
call.
I just feel like that the statuses / weapon affinities really, really matter. And just, like, give you the biggest damage output possible for all of these fights, which is just something I think is really interesting, too. Just a whole completely different play style.
Adef getting real close here on this, and Bushy going right into the Mesmer fight, wasting no time. No setup and pivot. He just says, I'm going to get this, and I'm going to get to 85 first because of it. And we'll see if that is the case.
Let's go ahead and bring both of them up on the screen here. Yeah, I don't know. This is going to be really interesting. Nice fight, though, from Adef here. Going to be getting that Romina in just a moment. And we'll get to see as well, like, how close he actually... Oh, he does have the golden scarab here. Okay, so he's trying to capitalize as much as possible on money.
Damn it.
Gets 456,000 runes.
He missed the gold horn tender, though. I don't think he's going to have enough. He maybe was counting on that to have just enough, but the gold horn tender was just too late to get the bonus.
Yeah.
Shit.
So he's already thinking that Euphoria
Yeah,
might
I
be
should-
contested here. He's going to be going for catacombs instead. And Bushy might just have to, like, reach into catacombs. Sorry, not catacombs,
to
but
win on
into the
bingo, I
Euphoria
think.
because he doesn't know if Adef ever went for Romina now. He doesn't have that information.
I did hot
Adef
bar the
not
gold
leveling,
damage,
though.
didn't
I don't know if
press
he's
it.
if he just doesn't know that he... Or knows that he doesn't have
I think
enough.
he does know that he doesn't have enough because he didn't get that golden scarab. I think he was calculating it out. He had it all big brain in his head, and he said, "Oh no, I missed it. I don't have enough. I got to go to catacombs right now."
Yeah. I don't know how much they do the Death Knights. They give like 100,000.
Yeah, it's not
120.
a huge amount, but it is substantial.
Yeah. I do want to see what his level is, though. He is going straight towards that Fog Rift Catacomb here as his first one. Bushy here going into
Bushy
phase
getting
2.
hit. This is very dangerous. Oh, he salvages
Okay.
it though. A stagger. He's got it. He's got it. No problem. What was I worried about?
That's going to be level 85 here for Bushy now. So it's going to be 9-9 at this point, 1 hour into the match. Oofta, oofta, oofta. This is getting interesting. This is where we are kind of reaching Monka W territory when it comes to what is the next play, because both players are kind of not racing against time, but racing against priority here. There is that level 85 now from Bushy. And now does Bushy lean into his priorities, or does he go for Euphoria? He is going for Euphoria. Okay.
Ooh, interesting.
It's not going to take him too much time, so there is that.
It's a long route. Even once you're in Enir Ilum, it is a long route to get there, but certainly faster than like Metter. So
Yeah.
you know, one of the quicker things he could do on this board, even if it is a bit of a long one.
I mean, he can do the good old skip into the Euphoria area, just to make that a little
Yes,
bit
for
quicker
sure.
instead of going all the way around. But yeah, I do wonder here. Adef wasn't even close to level 85.
yeah.
Just leveled, got to 67 with his Romina money. So yeah, not even close to level 85. So I'm pretty sure he
Yeah.
he just didn't have enough.
Yeah, missing that 400 something thousand runes earlier from the Memory of Grace. Yeah,
Yeah.
it just didn't really have a chance there.
That's a huge money sink. It is, however, still creating that money sink might still be worth it with how much pressure he's putting on Bushy to go for that Euphoria though. This Catacomb is going to be interesting. Backhand blades having bleed on them versus a Death Knight is not going to be optimal here. He could have used some of that money at the very least to spend that on the Sanctified Wet Blade to kind of deal with these Death Knights a little bit easier.
Ooh, yes, yes.
If he's going to be doing double Catacombs anyways, it's going to be either the 2 Death Knights or it's going to be a Death Knight and Jory. I think there's only 3 Catacombs in the DLC, right?
I'm not entirely sure, but those are the 3 that I remember. So
yeah,
if he has to go to Jory, that is a ways. Yeah, not a fast one to do. The backhand blades as well, not great at dealing with the Death Knights, in my opinion, whereas the Great Katana, you can sort of mini stagger them over and over. You can kind of just stop them from doing so much. The backhand blades, that's a little bit tougher to do. It's not a terrible weapon. You can still use the backhand part of it, the Ash of War, to get around behind them, but it's just not going to quite stagger lock them as much as the Great Katana would.
And Bushy here going the long way for Euphoria, not taking the shortcut here, going down into the staircase now. It's going to take him a little bit longer here to get to Euphoria, about another, like minute, I think he's going to have it. So at the very least for Adef, maybe, once he sees that Euphoria is marked, it's like, okay, well, I have 1 Catacomb now. Let me go ahead and get priority maybe on the other sides of the board. And that might be his best move, is just starting to get actually, Ancient Dragon Men killed. Access to Finger Ruins.
Yeah, he really is lacking on so many of those access to things because of what he tried to do with the rush early, and it did work early. He was ahead almost this entire game, but Bushy has really brought it back, just saying, hey, I've got the map access. Even if you're 1, 2, even almost at some points 3 squares ahead, I'm just going to bring it back. And Bushy's game plan has been working really, really well for him. If you're a Bushy fan, I think you're feeling pretty good about this match so far.
That Death Knight damage is okay. It's not horrible.
Yeah.
It's yellow damage. And as everyone says, if it's yellow, it's good.
It's good, yeah.
That's all you
need
to
see. Getting those backstabs especially. Getting around behind and then constantly getting the backstabs is pretty huge. Oh, Adef? Oh! I was going to say he knows the dodge. He got the dodge on the axes, but the lightning gets you. Sometimes it's almost better just to take the axe hit, because then you will iframe through the lightning, and the lightning way more deadly than the axes are.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate here for Adef. Going to have that Stake of America, though, to make up for it. Here, however, is going to be Bushy now. I think he has 1 more elevator to go down. Or is he already here? I think he's already here.
I think he's got it.
There is Euphoria going to be marked. Is this going to be a thing now of Adef pivoting as soon as he sees that being marked?
I would not like to see him pivot. I think you're already here, and if you had to come back and go through the entire catacomb, yeah, it would be pretty devastating.
Yeah.
And he really isn't set up for anything else. I think this is kind of his only option, and then it's gonna kind of fizzle. He knows for sure that Bushy has access to PK because he saw Velvet St. Trina's sword.
Right.
So he knows as well for sure that Bushy is gonna have access to the Lamenter boss and to into the Egon's Furled Finger. And so Adef might have to go for Metter, but that's only 2 squares. That doesn't even... Actually, yeah, I wouldn't even get it. He has to take one of these squares that he knows Bushy has priority for in order to have any chance of this.
Yeah, this is getting really, really tricky here for sure. I wonder what the call here is now from Bushy, if he's thinking just prepping a bunch and bouncing around until he sees something marked. I think, yeah, as soon as Adef marks Catacombs, it's going to be over for Adef, because then Bushy knows, okay, he's committed a lot of time to that square. There's no way he can do all of these other 5 squares that are left over, and Bushy only needs 3. So maybe he's looking at, okay, I could do Lamenter into Mateer, Motherfingers, and Count Emir because of that double up. And honestly, that might be the best play possible here for Bushy. Whereas for Adef now, getting that one Catacomb, going to Manus Mateer now because he doesn't have that other Grace on the road that we talked about before. Going to have to try and make up all of that time now and prep his way towards Motherfinger as well. This is definitely a tough position to be in for Adef.
Yeah, I mean, even though it only looks like that one square lead, just so much priority, so much map presence from Bushy is, is going to make this feeling almost impossible for Adef, even though it is by count so close. I don't know what Adef can do. He's going to have to, make some very big brain plays, maybe try to snipe Bushy on some things that Bushy is setting up for, because he's very behind, I think, at this point.
I think genuinely the best thing for Adef, and obviously he doesn't know this, the best thing for Adef, however, is not even leaning into the Motherfinger and Count Emir quest lines. And if you went for Egon's Furled Finger, Lamenter, and Putrescent, which is all past ADM, he could get those into Catacombs, and that's the 13 that he needs. He doesn't even have to do the whole Motherfinger setup.
Yeah, that would be very sneaky. If he basically goes for PK next, the one that Bushy probably feels the most confident that he has priority in,
right?
And take that and immediately go get Egon that Bushy thinks he has priority in, and take that and immediately get Lamenter, or maybe the opposite, maybe Lamenter into Egon, but take all three of those back to back to back from Bushy. That would be huge, and that would bring him right back into this game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that I've kind of been trying to lean in more with these practice matches versus some of these players is like when they do show priority is challenge it and being like, okay, you've been holding priority for the last 10 minutes on, duping a Remembrance. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to challenge that. I'm going to see if I can take that away from you because you might be feeling too confident on the fact that you can just keep holding on to it. And I'd like to see that more from other players as well of being like, hey, you've been holding on to PK, priority with that Velvet Sword pickup. I'm gonna go ahead and challenge that. I'm gonna see if I can actually take that away from you. And I think sometimes that could be really, really effective, and also a bit of a weird like psychic damage type move because then the other player is like, oh my god, like I lost something that I was holding on to. Like what am I doing? Starting like, kind of like a little bit of a ripple effect of like, okay, you start to trying to psych out your opponent by taking their stuff away.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. There's all the squares here are just so long. It feels like whatever you go for, your opponent's getting something in the meantime. It feels like this is very much going to be like a trade for trade, square for square type situation. Bushy does not have the whole laden necklace. That is a very big time loss here. I don't think he even grabbed any of the graces along the way. That is just complete wasted time.
That is genuinely extremely shocking. I know like players forget a lot of things. I mean, like, Ada forgetting the dancing lion head. Blank's forgetting that he doesn't have Iris of Occultation, right? Those things. But forgetting the whole Laden necklace is definitely that's a pretty big oversight. And I feel like you would kind of remember that. But I guess like everything's moving so quickly at some point, you just kind of forget like, oh, did I grab that? Did I not grab that? I'm just going to just go. And I think for a lot of players, especially when you do go around that whole Churchwater district area, normally when you grab that grace that's in the middle of the road, that Adef skipped, normally you do go to Count Emir first, grab the necklace, and then you keep on going. That's normally like the default route. So I think as soon as you go past that area, the assumption of, okay, I have it already is a pretty common thing to think of.
Yeah, I mean, especially because he had to rush Romina. He said, I need Romina first. And it was a good play. He got Romina first because he rushed it. Adef was right behind. But yeah, just skipping Count Ymir has come back to bite him a little bit here.
Yeah, grabs the grace here now. Went all the way back up through the ruins and has to go now port back to Ymir. This might be the time that Adef needed to be able to get some presence on the board again as well for map progression.
Yeah, it looks like Adef is also going for Metter. He's going for Gaius here. He has the whole laden necklace. He has O Mother. So maybe getting a snipe here. That would be interesting. If they both go for it and Adef gets both squares just before Bushy, that would put Adef in a 1 square lead. Bushy's still having the map advantage very clearly. But all Adef would need is to snipe one more of those squares after getting Metter, and then he's got priority on Catacombs, and he can make this work. So a great plan, actually, that is maybe going to come to fruition just because of that mistake from Bushy. Although Bushy is going to be able to warp back a little closer, Bushy might still be... it's going to be a close race. It's hard to call who's ahead here.
Yeah, I mean, Adef doesn't have to go for Ancient Dragon Man specifically for Mother of Fingers, but I don't know.
Oh, yes, he is very far from that. That is true. Bushy may still be able to get Metter here, and if Bushy gets Metter, despite Adef putting all of his time into it, it's going to be over, I think. I don't know that there will be any coming back from, a 12-9 lead with priority on Egon, with priority on Lamenter, with priority on PK, and, it would be very, very tough from that point.
I am not going to lie, though. I could totally see Bushy going for Mother of Fingers and then leaving Emir. The same way he did this Velvet Sword into Putrescent Knight. He's going to be doing the same thing, potentially. Leave Emir open as like, hey, I already have priority on this because I already killed Mother of Finger. And then go for like Egon's Furled Finger. Or go for Lamenter. And then go back. And that might be a play that might actually bite him in the butt if that does happen. Because Adef can still be like, okay, you might leave that open. I'm not going to pivot. I'm just going to go for this Emir thing. And that might be a little bit of a trade-off here. But that's also like a very weird scenario. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I could totally see that with how the players' mentalities of like holding priority and trying to mentally, bulldoze the other person here. I could see that turn out that way too.
Yeah, and that'd be a tough call from Adef as well. If you saw Metter march from Bushy to say, I'm going to go for it anyway, is just a really hard call to make.
Yeah.
I would imagine that a lot of times, even if you're in the middle of the Metter fight, I could see a lot of players just quitting out, stopping the fight, and going somewhere else as soon as you see it marked. So, I think it would work for Bushy almost every time if he went for that. But, if Adef has the guts to go for it anyway, we'll see what happens. But
yeah,
it looks like Bushy is actually pivoting here, just gonna go for Egon's Furled Finger. Just take what's safe. Maybe say, well, I'll let Adef do those two. I'll let Adef do Metter if he really wants them, and I'll just get everything else. Because all he needs is 3 more. If he gets Egon's Furled Finger, which he has priority on, PK, which he has the priority on, and Lamenter, which he has priority on, game's over. He might just be saying, I'll just get the 3 quick ones for me, and you can go waste your time with those slow ones over there.
I mean, actually, for PK, I think Adef does have a Grace in Cerulean Coast. So he
does.
So, I mean, Bushy does have a Grace in the Putrescent Knight hole. But Adef could easily make that time up. Like, he's not that far behind.
Right.
So... yeah,
but if
don't know.
Adef goes all the way through Metter first, that seems like it would be very hard then to get to PK before Bushy, because all Bushy has to do is finish these Drakes, and then he could be on his way there if he wanted.
That is very true. That is very true. I think Adef really needs to play around the fact that he doesn't have access towards Lamenter and Egon's Furled Finger, because that's a big debuff here for him, is not having access to either of those squares at this point.
And he's getting just absolutely trapped on the way to the Finger Ruin. Bushy, however, taking out the second Drake. Once that goes down, should be much easier to take out the main Drake here. And Adef does not know about the tech. You can just blow the whistle and immediately port. You don't have to sit here. You do not need the item that it gives. As soon as you press the whistle button, that counts as the access towards getting to Metter.
Yeah, so it says as soon as you just press the button, the animation starts, like you're good to port.
As soon as it starts, you are good to port. It counts. The only reason to sit there is if you want that talisman that it gives.
Yeah, I think for me, like, I didn't wait throughout the whole thing myself, but what I did do is I, at the very least, hear the horn. And I'm like, okay, now I can go now. But yeah, knowing that you can just pour it immediately, even without necessarily healing the horn, definitely saves you a good, couple of seconds.
Yes, yes, for sure. And over the course of 2 of those that you have to do to get to Metter, it's a sizable difference in time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Adef, doesn't have the best way to get to those finger runes, doesn't have the skip, but because he's got Cerulean Coast, he can still get there. This is not too slow necessarily.
It would be a very ballsy play right now if Adef grabbed this Grace and then challenged Putrescent Knight and then went for Mother Fingers afterwards. I don't expect that to happen, but it would be insane if he did do that. He does grab the Grace
This
here.
is... Oh, this is the Grace kind of on the way to PK, right?
Yeah. It definitely is. So he's at least closer than he was before.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, not Ancient. Jagged Peak Drake here, however, for Bushy, almost halfway down at this point. Has the other dragon dead already, so this is just a normal dragon fight at this point. Does get a nice stagger here.
Yes, huge. If he gets a Frost proc here, that could come close to sealing it with this Riposte, because dragons take so much damage from Riposte, and he does, and yep, it is almost over. Just a few more hits.
Very quick fight. Very, very quick fight here. Ooh.
Oh,
does take
smacked
a lot
one more
of
time
damage,
at the end.
though.
And he's got it.
Very nice. Very, very, very nice. I was going to grab Egon's furled finger here. Going to slap him in his face real quick so he stops talking. Oh, he does miss it. There we go.
And with that, a 2-square lead for Bushy, and Adef is going to see it, and, I think he's gotta stick with his plan, Adef. He had to know Bushy was up to something here, but I don't think he's going to be too happy to see that. Oh, is he pivoting?
Well, he got a Grace for the finger ruins, and he went back real quick. I think he's buying some more things real quick for the fight.
Ooh, interesting.
Okay. Getting the
Is he gonna go holy? He might be going for PK. This might be a pivot to PK with the holy.
I don't like that. I don't like that. Oh, this is bad now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an either or. You got to go for something. I don't mind it. I don't mind it saying, hey, Bushy thinks he's got priority here. If I can steal this away and then get Metter first as well, because I think that I'm closer because Bushy just spent his time getting Egon's furled finger.
Right.
I think that's a smart play from the information he knows.
Oh, 100%.
We know that Bushy is probably going to get Metter first because of it, but I think from the information that Adef knows and him thinking, oh, he just spent his time going to Bale instead, I think this is smart. I think it's not going to work out, but I think it is a very smart play to try to get yourself back into it. Because if he got PK and then got Metter first in both of those, well, then Adef would actually have the lead. Adef would be at 12 to Bushy's 11, and he'd only have to get the 2 catacombs that he's there for. So I personally love this play from Adef, even though we know as outside observers, I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I remember literally just saying, like, if you went for PK like 4 minutes ago, I was like, this would be a really cool and interesting play. And now I'm like, no. But like that's bingo, right? It changes from like, oh, this could be a really good play, and that moment. But as soon as it just goes on for a little too long, it's like, oh, this is a bad play. Like, this is a bad play now. But yeah, I think you're definitely right that Adef, we're just recognizing the Egon's furled finger and being like, okay, there's possible time waste here. I can go ahead and challenge PK first and then go for Materia Mother of Fingers because I think I have progression on ruins. I think is definitely a great call. However, I think realizing that you really honestly screwed up the routing of Mother of Fingers, by not getting some of the graces and then having the closed door on yourself and all that stuff. I think that should still also be considered as well and being like, hey, I took a long time kind of prepping that myself, so maybe he's a little bit closer to that than I actually realize. And yeah, Bushy here going to be grabbing that last finger rune now, and it's going to be doing the Mother of Fingers fight very, very soon here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is this the first of the ruins or the second one for Bushy?
This is the second one, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not
Um,
sure if he...
yeah.
Did he do... I think I do remember him doing the skip down to the other one, yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing for Bushy. Adif hasn't marked anything in almost 30 minutes. So for him, it's really hard to tell what the heck Adif is up to.
Yeah, these squares are just all so long and so late game that, yeah, you don't get that much information on your opponent here.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, with Bushy now heading into meta, barring an incident, this should close it out.
And Adif here, props to him facing his demons of the lasers in the good old PK graveyard here.
We'll see how it works out for him. I think he was going to practice it. I think he said, I'm going to find a line. I'm going to find a way that works for me. So if he has done that and he can get through that nicely, well, you know, I'll be proud of him at the very least if he can just make it through here first try, preferably hitless.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting. I think now Bushy goes for Mother Fingers, and then I think he still pivots. I don't think he's going to do Mother Fingers into Emir. Although, no, actually he would.
Interesting call.
Nah, I think he would, because then he would be at 13. So, like, what's the reason to really prolong that, you know? There's no reason.
That is true. That is true. I think, yeah, if you got Metter, you'd go for it. And even if somehow you then lost Emir, you'd know, okay, well, now I can go do whichever other thing I want. So I think going for that instant end on Ymir would be a very smart play.
Yeah, I think that case of like him pivoting off of off of Emir from Mother Fingers is only if he had 10 squares. With him having 11, there's really no reason to really do that play here. Adif taking care of some of these lasers, however, getting through the whole laser portion without getting hit a single time, actually. So
yes,
huge upgrade on his part for this whole section here now. And
I don't love him killing all of these. I think it's a little unnecessary, but hey, as long as he makes it through unscathed, you know what, you can't really criticize too much.
Right, no, 100%. It's a pretty crappy area too. But here Bushy now going to be entering the Mother of Fingers fight. Did take care of Anna. This is going to be something that is going to set the tone for the rest of the match. And I think at this point, that Adif is going to know that it might be Jover.
It may be Jover. I do love the Great Katana on this fight with Metter, by the way. I find it to be super strong. The damage that you can get on poking her stomach is very consistent, as well as the bleed and the frost are both excellent against Metter. So having that combination makes it huge. You can almost kill her even like before or as she transitions sometimes, depending on your setup. Bushy almost doing too much stagger. I would have almost loved to see the stagger a little bit later as she's about to transition, but he should be able to get a big amount of damage on her here as she's going up into the air, and maybe even setting up for a stagger right as she lands, which would end the fight and probably end this match.
He's got to be a little careful here. Gets the piano hands.
Oh, he only got hit twice. That was very lucky. I really thought he was going to get hit just one more time, which would have taken him out, but manages to survive that. Nicely timed rolls. This should be a stagger, and this should be a kill. This should be it.
Yeah, especially with that bleed proc. There it is.
Yep.
That's a huge, very, very nice fight here from Bushy. Very, very nice fight. It's going to mark that square in just a moment here. And there it is. 12-9 right now. Adif just nodding, being like, okay.
Yep. He knows there's nothing really at this point that he can do. He can keep trying, but with Bushy able to just get Ymir immediately after, this will end it.
Yeah. We're going to just be able to see the Sanctified Wet Blades, however, on PK here. Going to deal some decent amount of damage. And again...
Oh, more than decent. That is nice damage when you get an opening.
The shame is still not having Rotten Sword Insignia here. I think there's a lot of DPS that you're missing out on by not grabbing that Talisman.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a shame. But yeah, it's still really, really good damage here. And Bushy working on that Jolan invasion. Yolan. Something like that.
Yeah, I don't know how to say
What are
it
the
either.
names?
Anna was much easier. Bring back Anna. But yeah, looks like at the very least, ADF might be able to get PK before Bushy finishes this, so making it a very, very competitive board here by the end of it. But yeah, as soon as Bushy takes out Ymir, we will be finished. Unless Ymir takes out Bushy, but you know, it could always happen. Oh, but that huge Lion's Claw damage.
The freaking fingers sorcery though is so powerful. I wish it was actually
Yeah.
useful for actual play, because it doesn't really do anything. But here it is. Ymir being currently decimated. Putrescent Knight for ADF now. GG's for ADF on that Putrescent kill. But yeah, sadly has to now either lean into the Mother of Fingers fight and go for Ymir, or just does Catacombs.
Yep. And Bushy, one more hit away. Ymir is teleporting, but as long as he heals up and takes his time, miss. There it is.
Very,
And
very nice.
GG Bushy.
There we have it. 10-13 or 13-10 here for Bushy. Very, very nice match from him. Very nice match from Adif as well. Overall, just great gameplay that we're allowed to watch from both of these players. Really strong showcasing here of map presence that we were talking about at the beginning before the stream even before the match even started was that progression towards areas and really creating a lot of pressure for your opponent here, and that really showcased with that Lamenter slash dragon priority, and also the Mother of the Finger Ruins priority as well. All right, we'll go check in with the players real quick. We're going to go into the post game here, see if they're both ready. There we go. There we go. Going to check in with both players. Bushy's cam is zoomed in just a little, but that's fine. Not the end of the world. Let's bring in Bushy here first. Bushy, welcome in. GG's, man. GG's.
Thank you.
Very strong showing here on board presence slash map presence. What was the overall thought process here for the match and like prepping for the ADF match here for you?
I think Adef's a really underrated player. He actually plays very, very well, and I don't think he gets all the credit that he deserves for it. But with that in mind, his early game idea was substantially better than mine. Getting that progress over towards like Ballarat and Prospect Town, there was a lot of important stuff over there.
Yeah.
And it kind of put me on the back foot immediately. The best idea on this board was definitely the Ancient Dragon Man thing. Like, backside Shadowkeep had a couple squares, which is like that's abnormal. It's backside Shadowkeep is almost always more important than Jagged Peak, but Jagged Peak was just crazy. And I found that idea first and sat on that priority for pretty much the entire game. My early game decisions kind of costed me quite a bit because I had to go get Euphoria. But fortunately, the Ancient Dragon Man play was strong enough that it made up for what was honestly not a very good choice early game.
Yeah, you talking. Oh, I think also the hanging pot bell bearings and not having a weapon ready for that invasion and everything. I think that definitely was a bit of a time sink for sure. But really bringing it back in that mid to late game and really bringing a lot of power onto the board, I think was a huge call. That Romina play was a really big call. I think that definitely like really set the tone for the rest of the match. So yeah, that was a really good late game from you here. Let me go ahead and bring in Adif as well. We'll talk about like the rest of the match here as well from his perspective.
Sounds good.
Adif, welcome on in, man. GG's, dude.
GG's.
Yo, GG's Bushy.
We were talking about like the early game slash mid game here. You had a really good like strong start here, Adif. What was your overall like plan going into this Bushy matchup?
Ideally win the game would be that's
Good plan. I like that one.
That's a solid plan.
that's really it, man. Like, I don't know. To Bushy's great. I literally can't speak. To Bushy's character, a positive. I don't know. I can't remember fucking words.
You good?
I watched a lot of Bushy games today and last night just to see like what the vibe was, and I don't think he has really like a discernible like, oh, I always do this or I always play like this, which is good. That's what you want, because I think my only like I have a lack of Elden Ring experience, undeniably. And I think that shows in late game a lot, even though I practice the fuck out of this stupid fucking dog shit game. But I actually love Elden Ring. Do not let my tilt belie that. But I think my one thing I have over the other players in this tournament is my bingo sense. Like, I think my bingo game sense is very good. I am often, if not always, correct about what other players are doing. But I was wrong about what Bushy was doing like 99% of this match. Which again, I think is to Bushy's great credit. Boom. Remembered the word. So yeah, GG's.
Yeah, GG's.
So when it comes to like the mid/late game, there were definitely some interesting calls from both of you guys here. Was the map progression kind of, because we were talking about 8F squares here, kind of not giving a lot of information to Bushy on what he actually has access to, and I think a little bit the same, I guess, for 8F as well. When it came down to like, the last 6 squares of Lamenter, Putrescent, Emir, Mother of Fingers, and Egon. Did you guys know if you had priority or if you didn't have priority? Like, what was the thought process there for both of you guys?
The second I got sniped on Romina, I knew I lost the game. Like, literally that nanosecond, I knew it was over.
That was a tough one for sure.
Because he has so much priority over me on Egon, PK, Lamenter boss, because presumably he went through Charos to get down. And I didn't even know he had so much progress on Finger Ruins, but he did. At least like half progression. So once Romina was sniped, I was like, okay, well, there's only 6 squares left and I need 4 of them. And then when he did Euphoria, I was like, well, fuck, that was my backup plan. And it was like, you know, that was it.
From my perspective, I was entirely sure that I had a lead on Finger Ruins up until the point that I went all the way down to the Finger Ruins without the whistle, and then I was like, oh, I need to split progress now.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely a devastating thing to see, is going all the way to Finger Ruins Dio and then not having the whole Laden necklace to even use the Finger Ruins. But definitely still a really nice bounce back from that. When it came to like the late game with for you, Bushy, you had a bit of like definitely a split map kind of setup, you know, where you had a little bit of Finger Ruins, you had a little bit of Putrescent, you had a little bit of Egon's Furled Finger, and Lamenter. Was Lamenter ever on the radar for that game plan? Because he did have a Grace nearby to him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was sure, like, I knew this from like probably like 30 minutes into the match, that I was going to have substantial progress over 8F on Lamenter, Putrescent, the whole Mateer idea, obviously the Velvet Sword as well, like everything that involves Jagged Peak, Igon's Furled Finger. I knew that I was like really far ahead on all of that. So when it was like, when I was down like 2 squares in the mid game, I was saying, I'm pretty sure I'm winning here. The only problem I needed to solve at that point was blocking 8F's bingo. And I did. And the story that he ended up telling in the mid game, where he like wasn't marking anything, like you say that's like robbing information, but it also tells a story all on its own. It makes it seem pretty likely that he's not going to spend 20 minutes developing map progress and not claiming a single square. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense in that context. So it's like I knew pretty well that he was going for Romina, and I was definitely ahead of him on it. And so when I won Romina and he still didn't mark things, it was like, okay, I'm ahead on all of this.
Yeah. That's very understandable. When it comes to one square specifically, though, that I was kind of interested in, is 8F attempted unique NPC invaders a little bit earlier than you did, Bushy, and then sadly did die to Queeline, but didn't like reattempt it. Was there a specific reason did you think that was already going to be off the board at some point then, Adaf? Because it was there for quite a while after that thing happened with Queeline. It was still open for quite a long time.
I mean, I should have gone back to it later, but I think one of the biggest weaknesses of over half the crowd, not to like shit on people, but like people have no willingness to pivot. And I died and was like, all right, well, this is a waste of time. My damage is bad. I have no skidoo. It would be a waste to run all the way back here when like there's more important square progression and map progression I should be making. So I think I was trying to take a dose of my own medicine and be like, okay, I need to be more willing to pivot.
Yeah.
And so that happened a couple times actually. Dude, I died so many fucking times in this match. That Death Knight death was crazy. I got one tapped.
Yeah.
I got one tapped by lightning AoE out of nowhere. That was nuts.
Yeah, that was a lot.
To be honest with you, on that attack, I just take the axe hit because then you're immune to the lightning. And you can just, like roll and you're fine because that attack gets me so often that
I was so shocked. I mean, literally. I think a willingness to pivot is good. I definitely should have revisited it though. I noticed it was unmarked, kind of too late. I think. And I knew Bushy had already done ADM.
Right.
Yeah, I think when I initially went for it, it was a good idea. But yeah, I should have progressed it further. I also, frankly, have never killed more with the backhand blades, and that might have been terrible. So who knows?
It's okay. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. One last thing I have here for Bushy. Your first square that you actually bulldozed here was Blessings of America. Now, normally that's not really a square that a lot of, like, I would say players really prioritize as their first one, because obviously, like, Great Katana was on the board, and sometimes, like, Talismans or Ashes of War are something that, like, people really prioritize before that, because you have to get the Fort Reprimand to even do the Blessings of America. So I was wondering what made you want to kind of, like, I guess, go for that from the get-go, going to the church, and then going around and grabbing some other things on the way, like the Magma Talisman and stuff like that, but still kind of really pushing that early on. Like, was that just because it was an early corner square, or was it because you were trying to, like, get some more information out of Adaf, seeing if he sells the Great Katana, so you have some time to kind of see, like, what's happening on the board?
Yeah. Well, like I was mentioning earlier, I think Adaf's early game idea was the best early game idea, and mine was not the best. But the rationale that I was using was that Blessings of America is a fast square that does get really relevant map progress. You have to go through Fort of Reprimand on every game anyway.
Right.
So that could chain into a little bit of, like, Skidoo Altis priority, which is relevant for, like, NPC invaders, and then, like, backside Shadowkeep, which was not the strongest on this board. Like I said, ADM was definitely the strongest map progress on this board. The reason why I started going for, like, efficiency plays with the Talisman pickup was not because I was just trying to be efficient the whole way through. I was actually trying to rush the Blessings of America square. I did not execute very well at the beginning. But when Adaf marked whatever his first square was, Thalier's Concoction, it was like, okay, I know I'm not racing for this, so let me pick up this Magma Talisman and try to incorporate a little bit of efficiency here, which obviously didn't end up paying off, but, like, there's no reason not to be efficient when you know you have the time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Understandable. And actually, I have one more question. Sorry, actually, Mitch, I'm so sorry. Do you have any questions for the players too?
I do have one question
go
that
for it,
I've been hanging on here for Adaf. I was wondering if you ever considered really rushing that row 4, because you had up to 3 of those squares marked with nothing that you knew of from Bushy going for either of those blocks. Did you consider rushing the Romina and Euphoria? I think at that point you kind of went for, like, dupe Remembrance and a few other things before you kind of went back to it. Was that something you were considering, or were you just trying to get more of the priority in squares in general?
I think I was blinded by the fact that in my brain Euphoria is so long. And I was fully planning on doing it. Like, it's not like I wasn't aware that I had bingo possibility. And if I'd have skipped dupe Remembrance, yeah, I would have absolutely won this game. But it's hard to have that hindsight. Because, like, yeah, dupe Remembrance, I was still at Morth Ruins. I didn't have any progress around the backside to Shadowkeep. So, like, that's 3 minutes to go do that. You know, 2.5 minutes to go do that, and the Romina kill was maybe 2.5, 3 minute snipe. So like, I think it makes it a lot closer. And if I get Romina, maybe he also finishes it, and then Euphoria gets sniped. But I think the game is at least closer. But you know, then there's the extra problem of then I have to go from below for Mesmer. I have to do the like up shadow keep jumping instead of going around, because I would have had no map progress on the other side. So I think part of the decision making was just like, there's so much, like Metter and Emir are both on here, which means I need to get to Gaius, and I fully the skip from Mesmer to Gaius is so bad that I was like, I'm not doing that. So there's too much map progress around the right side for me to look past, I think. And so I was hoping that my lead majority would maintain while I did this, and then maybe the bingo is still possible. I truly did not think he was going for Romina when he was, but it was good. You know, it was good sight on him to do it.
From my perspective, the moment that you marked Duper Remembrance, like I was pretty sure you were going for it. I said something along the lines of he's going to mark Duper Remembrance in like a minute. And as soon as you marked that, it was like, okay, I have to assume he's rushing Euphoria. So until he shows me something different, that's what I'm doing.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good play.
Yeah. Well, I mean, GG's from both you guys. Was a great, fantastic match from both you. Thanks so much for playing today. We'll see you guys in the future. Obviously, best of luck into your next matches. And I hope you have a good rest of your day, guys. Thanks so much for stopping in.
Yeah,
Take
thank
care.
you. GG's,
GG's
Adolf.
guys. Yeah, GG's, Bushy.
GG's.